remember I told you about these overwhelming feelings I've been having lately about the mistakes I've made in the past.
Oh
and,
yeah.
and the weird thing that goes on is that now things that I lived through back then that I was perfectly okay with how I handled it. Now I'm rejudging, I'm going over the way I behaved, my attitudes, my behavior, and seeing what an asshole I was in so many instances. And I've gotten to, in my daydreaming, relive those events with me behaving in a more productive, mature, compassionate way, any good word you want to throw in there. And I then told you that I believe that I'm starting to get the belief that if you go through enough of those things, starting from when you were a kid up to last Friday, at some point you're rewarded by God or the creator or whoever's in charge of this mess, by him saying, yes, you get to live your life again. You've earned that. Now with the enlightened version of yourself, as opposed to the asshole version, which we've had to sit and watch for these last 6 decades. And all of us up here are just as fed up with you as you are.
Let's do a hypothetical here. A cringeworthy moment. Change the names to protect the innocent.
Okay.
You're reliving your life. Tell me a cringeworthy moment that is really bugging you now, that you had, that you understood that what you were doing was cringeworthy, that you were in the wrong, but you did it anyway. Like I don't think I've ever done all these cringeworthy things that haunt me. In the moment, I thought it was the right thing to do. I thought I was defending myself. I thought I was being forthright. I thought I was being clever. Whatever it is, I never had the foresight to see, oh shit, 30 years from now, you're going to be wincing every time you think it is. Now, tell me one of those moments you've ever had, as I say, change the names to protect the innocent, change the name of the corporation, change whatever you need to change. But tell me one where you recognized at the moment, okay, I'm being a prick here, but I got to do this anyway. And why? Why would you have just gone forward with it knowing you were being a prick?
I started this by saying to you that at the time of these events, I wasn't aware that I was a prick. It's now looking back on it that I go, how the fuck did I behave that way? And I can give you not a moment, I can do better than that. I can give you a character, a pattern of behavior that have been responsible for a string of moments that I've regretted.
So what was the pattern of behavior?
I'm about to tell you.
Talk away.
The women who've loved me the most, the minute they got to the point where I was aware of how strong their feelings were for me, I immediately resented it. Like they were trying to steal something from me. My independence, whatever. My ambition, because I always believed that my career had to come first. If I acted on my instincts at the time or on my feelings at the time and gave them more time, attention, commitment, I felt it would do the thing that I prioritized in my life the greatest harm. And an offshoot of that, when you're talking about that, I mean, it's easy. That's just women. Now with guys, I guess the guy version of that is good friends. And you and I even had one of these moments where I would overreact to something where I felt, that the big shot here was not being treated with enough respect. And again, rather than simply sit down with somebody, and I would resent that, and I would overreact to that, and end. Luckily, you were big enough to reach out to me after a couple of years of us not talking to each other. But I've got plenty of fucking guy friends over the years whom I miss, that I ended it because I got to have my big moment, because I wouldn't be, treated disrespectfully, not allowing them to be as flawed as I am. They had to be perfect friends, where I, on the other hand, got to be the biggest shitheel of all time.
Wow. And well, I just wonder if on revisiting, because don't forget, if you get to live your life again, obviously they're not going to let you live your life with foreknowledge of everything that's coming your way. You don't. Yeah. So you live it all again in the moment, and you've got a little bit more maturity under your belt, but you're still you. Well, that's, fuck, man. I don't know. I mean, this is the cross we all bear, all those things that we we all learned too late.
Well, look, Dickens figured it out, so if Scrooge could have that, Scrooge didn't have to give up his life to walk into to begin a better life. The part about this life needing to end, that was an invention of mine to create the hypothetical that sprung, that led to this conversation. For all I know, when Marley shows up, he could say, "No, schmuck, we're not going to ask you to kill yourself." The problem is, for some reason, even though Scrooge was about the same age as me, he seemed perfectly content that he was, after a lifetime of being an asshole, he was only going to get 4 or 5 more years of being invited to Bob Cratchit's house. Me, I would say, you know what? I don't really care at this point. If I've got 5 years of a life on a higher plane, what's it going to give me? It's too late for any of that to matter. I would have to get to relive my life for that to have meaning.
What if Marley or Clarence, whoever comes down and says, "Schmuck, you're missing the point." The point is,
of course, I always miss the point.
The point is if you have the revelation on your life, you go out and live it that way, because a moment of living full and true is an eternity. It's the best we can hope for. We're only in the now. Right now, you're only in the now. Right now, you're only in the now. Right now, I'm only in the now. I mean,
okay, I didn't believe that when I read Faust, and I don't believe it now. The idea that a moment of contentment is somehow, to me, that just strikes me as, seeing something wonderful go to the next table.
If they give you your life all over again, they're not they're not going to give it to you laid out the same way. You're going to make new decisions.
I don't mind if I get hit by the bus naturally. I understand that. I understand that if it's a normal life, even though I get to live a second time, but as a normal life, nobody's invulnerable. I get that part. All I said was, what I meant, maybe I said it inartfully, was I would not want this to be that Twilight Zone moment where the mischievous God says to himself, "Okay," it's like the Twilight Zone where the guy tells the guardian or whatever, he says, "I want to live forever," and he goes, "Okay, you got it. That's our gift to you. You get to live for eternity." And then through a series of immediate events, he accidentally, or he kills somebody, gets arrested, and gets life in prison. So he's going to, so that's all I'm saying, is that's the kind of thing I'm looking to avoid, that they go, "All right, this guy wants to live his life again. All right, we're going to give him cancer, on purpose, rather than if it's a direct result of the amount of smoking I did."
Yeah, but what if they say, "Look, we're not going to do anything to fuck with you. You're
That's
going to
fine.
go into a new life, but anything, you could get hit by a bus at 28.
That's
But
fine.
we're not going to throw it at you. You're going to
Good.
walk your own path.
I want that in writing.
Okay, they give it to you in writing. You're
I
going to
want
walk
it in
your,
writing.
but you can, you can develop cancer at, 16.
That's,
you can.
again, I didn't expect, superhuman powers. I didn't expect to be invulnerable. All I'm saying is I don't want to be I don't want the consequences of a mischievous God, who's saying, all right, I'll show him who's in charge here. If this is on the up and up, I'm happy to look both ways before I cross the
Maybe
street.
we
like
all
anyone
live.
else.
Maybe we all live the consequences of a mischievous God, and maybe he sees you and me and a couple of people we know and goes, oh, these guys are really fun to fuck with. And maybe, maybe in your next life, you're not as much fun to fuck with and he kind of ignores you. Or maybe he says, boy, I gave him another life, but he's still friggin' awesome to fuck with. And I'm going to fuck with him in entirely new. I don't know. Let's face it. If we're talking about afterlife and living your life all over again, there's probably a mischievous God involved. Let's face it. Come on.
Well, if it's the traditional God that we've been led to believe is up there, we know he's mischievous. That's a euphemism if ever I've heard one.
That's
Abraham,
a euphemism.
I'm glad, Abraham, that you believe in me. So now, as a reward, I want you to take your son Isaac up to the mountain, stick his head on a rock, and kill him. And sure, okay, I'm happy to do it. And then he calls his son over. Isaac, come on, we're taking a little road trip. I mean, of course, that's why I would need proof. That's why I'd need it in writing, because I don't trust people, and I take a look at somebody, who
well, let's
invented.
face it. If we're going to go in the traditional route, God can't be trusted either. Look what he did with Abraham. He fucked with his head. I mean, can you imagine being at the point where you're ready to fucking stick a knife in your little child's throat? And then he says, I was just fucking with you.
I just wanted to see if in your trust in me and your belief in me, your support, your honoring me, you'd become a homicidal murderer. At that point, if I was Abraham, I would have said, you know what? I'm going to look for another God. Thanks for playing, and I'm done.
Yeah.
Why
But
that story is told in schools, in Sunday schools, as if that's a good story. You're asking children to worship a God, and you tell them that story. I go, holy shit! Who else do I have to worship? Jeffrey Dahmer?
Well, that's these are the stories. These are the stories that control us. I was at dinner a month and a half ago with a woman who was a Southern Baptist, and she heard that same story, and she asked her mother, and she said, hey, Mom, if God wanted you to kill me, would you have done what Abraham did? Would you have taken me to Iraq? And she says, well, of course I love you the second most in the world, but I love God more. And yeah, but he wouldn't do that. Well, what if he did? Because he did it to Abraham. And she said, well, if God really asked me to kill you, I'd have to kill you. Now, when you're a 7 or 8 year old kid,
yeah,
that answer can only do one thing to you. One thing.
Yeah.
You don't go, now I see the love of God. You are traumatized by that. When your
Right.
parent, who you worship, who is the God of your life, who is everything to you, tells you, yes, if God asked me to kill you, I would kill you, you're traumatized, which is what I believe makes somebody religious. I don't believe anybody can be religious without trauma. You got to
Right.
traumatize them, and then they'll follow. You just, no, because anybody who doesn't have the trauma is going to go, whoa, these are some terrible stories in this book you're reading. I mean, these are some awful things, and these are some very unreasonable demands this God is, and he loves me, but if I don't worship him, he's going to fucking send me to hell and make me burn for forever. Not for 50,000 years, for forever. That's a pretty unforgiving God. I'm gonna look for a better guy. But if I'm traumatized And that trauma has made me fucking twisted. Like I have a parents in my house who traumatized me, and that's my comfort zone. And it's just like, okay, I feel comfortable with this God of trauma because my parents traumatized me. That's where I'm going. That's what makes fucking religions. That's the only reason anybody buys that bullshit.
As we're talking here and we're talking about Abraham and what he asked Abraham to do, and not letting Moses go into the promised land after everything he did for him. Looking back, for God, those are pretty cringeworthy moments that he had. I suddenly realized I was made in his image.
Maybe. Or you were made in the opposite image, because maybe he doesn't cringe at any of his cringe more. He just goes, ha ha, fuck you. Yep, I fucked you over. I'm God. You can fuck yourself. Maybe because you're human, it makes you cringe and you go, oh shit, I was really cruel to another human. And God is like, and you think you're made in my image? I do this 100,000 times a day. I pull children away, babies away from their parents. I leave people maimed. Fucking somebody with something to live for gets cancer. Somebody who's, people in love, they get separated, and, everything gets ruined. They lose their house. They lose their job. I mean, you would think God would be cringing, but he's just like, I'm God. Fuck all you guys.
I just want a do-over.
You want a do-over.
I want to, now that it's crazy that I've learned all that people learn everything just as it becomes irrelevant to them. And this is something else that bothered me. And this will be the last thing I say today.
Oh, really?
I
have much to add.
Well, you could talk forever. I don't care. What I'm saying, though, is what really bothers me is when people of accomplishment die. You would think a smarter God would say, okay, this brilliant surgeon, this great playwright, they make such a contribution to the world, and they reach a point with so much knowledge that if there was a caveat where if you reached that level, where you actually, fuck an award, fuck the Kennedy Center, fuck the Queen knighting somebody. If you really reached a point where they wanted to honor you, where the cosmos wanted to honor you, they go, okay, you really do get immortality because you're worth more alive than dead. First, that would help the world. Second, that would give everybody incentive to actually become something. Why would I paint something beautiful, put it on the wall, and after 70 years destroy it? What's the point of creating? He created Jonas Salk. What possible rationale could there be to ending Jonas Salk's life? It's like truly, if Mozart, Fifth Symphony, but after 75 years, he said, you know what, nobody gets to hear this anymore. And he just tears it up, and that's the end of it. No more Fifth Symphony. If humans are smart enough not to do that, you'd think the creator of the universe would have figured it out at this point.
Well, as a great filmmaker once said, he's at best an underachiever. Everybody is great when they're happy. Adolf Hitler didn't think of killing 6 million Jews when he was in the garden and people were laughing around him and there were little fucking, the flowers were in bloom, okay? Everybody is great when they're happy. It's when you're fucking bugged. When Adolf was bugged, he was really fucking bugged. When you were bugged, you did cringe-worthy things. Everybody's nice when they're happy. So the lesson for you, go back, and when you're not feeling nice, be nice. That's the lesson.
Happy to embrace that lesson, and happy to go the Hitler analogy was the stupidest one I've heard in a long time, but I get your point.
It was, listen, when everybody around him was behaving and there was laughter, he was great. It's those other times he was a little.
There was no benign Hitler. There was no pleasant Hitler. There was no.
How do you
Hitler
know?
with a sword
How do
in
you
his-
know? How
sword.
many
Man,
times?
that's 6 million pieces of evidence.
You don't. You don't.
You don't do that part time. You don't become the world's greatest anti-Semite
What do you think? What do you
as a
think?
part timer.
What do you think? What do you think? He went out there and personally killed all the Jews? No,
Nobody wanted to. He wanted
it took him 10 minutes. He said, "Yeah, final solution. Let me sign off on that." Okay, everybody, let's go have a barbecue.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, it's too bad that Hitler, I don't think existed.
Anyway,
I think
Anyway.
it was when he cut the ribbon of Dachau. That's, I think, what made him happy.
listen, I've got news for you, though. The truth of the matter is you're in a coma. I don't exist. All of this is it's all just things that are in your imagination, and you'll be, relatively soon you'll be waking up. You're going to be 22, just finishing your senior year at university and ready to go to the whole thing. So I just want to let you know this is from the other zone. I do not exist. I'm just in your imagination. You'll be waking up soon.
Can I wake up at 18? I remember having a lot of fun in college. For all I know, if this really is a coma, there wasn't a World War II. Wouldn't that be great? What if I just dreamed it as part of my backstory?
That's certainly possible. Let's see what happens when you wake up from this coma.
I'm assuming I'm going to wake up me. I could just as easily wake up a pre-med student in Belgium.
You could wake up a Nazi soldier on the front line. You don't know.
That would be ironic.
That would be ironic. You just don't know. Let's see.
Talk about cringeworthy moments. Holy shit.